let's bang out this reading series. So we were we of course we're still mentioning the events of the UK election, which we're still in sort of a high from. But
boy,
holy shit! If you wanted like a fucking real world example for why people were so pissed off in the UK and why Jeremy Corbyn pulled off this shocking upset, it's this fucking high-rise council block that burned to the fucking ground, and like not to the ground, but just was gutted by fire.
And Theresa May, the scenes of her being chased by crowds, pelted, screamed at, she now has what Jez's approval ratings were before the election. It's now totally flipped.
That's amazing.
This is her Katrina, is what they're saying.
Yeah.
Completely is
because it's the direct consequence of conservative policy.
But like this was social housing. This was like a council block or whatever. And this was what was incredible to me. The entire exterior of this building was covered in, I don't know, napalm or something, because it looked better to another block of flats that was privately owned. There was for wealthy people, and they didn't want their line ruined by an ugly public housing project, so that they literally, instead of doing any renovations or installing a sprinkler system in this gigantic residential complex, caked on oily rags and gasoline jelly on the outside of this building.
They used the cladding on the outside of the building that was flammable. They could have used one that was fire resistant. It would have cost £5,000 more total to do that.
Yeah, and
they said, nah, we'll risk it.
Okay, keep that in mind. Keep that figure of £5,000 in mind, because we're gonna go dive in.
We're talking about my wife, mate.
Classic. We're going to dive right into this reading series, and we're returning again now to my favorite, and by favorite I mean maybe the single worst person with a byline in our media, Meghan McArdle.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh.
She came out yesterday with what is honestly the worst take I've ever fucking seen, or at least one of them. It's up there. Mm-hmm. This is writing in Bloomberg. Meghan says, "Beware of blaming government for London Tower fire." Okay, this is like probably the first time she wouldn't blame government for anything.
Well, sometimes they do the right thing and kill poor people.
Here's the subhead, though. Perhaps safety rules could have saved some residents, but at what cost to others' lives? There's always a trade-off.
I love that title formulation. That's beware of something that's obvious and popular and frightening to you in particular. You always see that from people like George Will.
At what cost is Subway cutting ties with Jared Fogle? What cost?
Every single Meghan McArdle take is the drill tweet where, drunk driving kills a lot of people, but it also helps people get to work on time. So it's impossible to know if it's bad or not.
Yeah. But just think of that phrase, there's always a trade-off. Mm-hmm. You couldn't get a better example of a trade-off here, which, as we said, $5,000 versus what? A few hundred fucking lives burned, incinerated in this fucking death trap?
But that's the thing. That was her big, in her awful articles about healthcare and how we can't have Medicare for all, is she said the same thing. There's trade-offs. And yes, of course there's trade-offs. Everyone knows that. But right now, every single trade-off is dead poor people for granite fucking countertops and rich assholes pied-à-terres. And she's just defending that trade-off as good.
Yep. And when I first saw this, my instant reply was like, this is the most cynical and disingenuous she's ever been, which is really saying something. But then I sat with it for a second and read the fucking piece again. And I was like, wait, no, she's not being disingenuous or cynical at all. Mm-hmm. This is exactly what she believes.
Yeah.
This is her being honest. But she's just not aware of it. Do you think Meghan, because she's lazy, as in addition to being dumb, do you think she just wasn't aware of the body count when she wrote this?
I think she didn't care.
Just didn't care?
Nah, there's no... I mean, the point stands. You can't let emotional things like the number of people who died affect your rational arguments.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual successor to the famous Matt Iglesias take of Bangladeshi workers get crushed by a factory that wasn't up to code, and that's okay. It's that sort of... Don't muddle my argument with appeal to emotion. Right. I'm just telling it like it is.
Trade-offs. But let's actually read from Meghan here. She says in her singular prose style, A few days ago, fire swept through Grenfell Tower, a large apartment building in London. It's not yet known what caused the fire, and we aren't conclusively sure how it spread so quickly, consuming the entire 24-story building, nor is it known how many people died in the fire. As of Friday, the count is at least 30. So she was, in her mind, was aware of at least 30 dead people writing this article. What we do know is that there are ways to help control the spread of fire in apartment buildings, such as sprinkler systems. This has the making of a scandal for Prime Minister Theresa May's beleaguered government. Her immigration minister, Brandon Lewis, was formerly the housing minister. He declined to require developers to install sprinklers. The Independent quotes him as telling the Parliament in 2014, "We believe it is the responsibility of the fire industry rather than the government to market fire sprinkler systems effectively and encourage their wider installation." Think about that.
We need a fire sprinkler awareness program.
Yeah.
No, she's just saying it's like, the fire sprinkler company needs a better PR campaign.
No, I'm saying they would need to like hire ads. And be like, ask your landlord about sprinklers.
It's just like a hallway totally on fire. There's got to be a better way.
Even these libertarian minarchists have to at least gesture that they're going to solve a problem in some fashion by throwing a few bucks at a PR campaign.
People who died in the Grenfell fire might be alive today if regulators had required sprinkler systems. This does not play well for the Tories. You think?
Yeah. But someone's taking a page out of the Saliza playbook. Strident analysis, Megan.
But before we start hanging them in effigy, how about not effigy?
Yeah, I agree with half of that. Yeah.
There are a couple things we should consider. The first is that even if the regulation had passed and required existing developers to retrofit sprinklers into older buildings, Grenfell Tower might not have gotten a sprinkler system before the fire occurred. Regulations are not implemented like instant coffee. Great analogy.
Yeah. I've always said that.
What's something fast?
Just painting a beautiful picture with words.
She said, they take time to formulate and further time for businesses to comply. All the political will in the world cannot conjure up enough sprinkler systems and sprinkler system installers to instantly transform a nation's housing stock.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Oh my fucking God! She's trying to drown you in just absolute banality. Oh my God!
I think it's a good point. Because we can't do it overnight, we shouldn't do it. That's a great point.
Don't do anything!
Unless it's instant coffee, I don't want it. That thing we all
Oh my
like.
God. Okay, so there's this guy, John Ralston Saul. He wrote a book called Voltaire's Bastards. And the basic premise is that Enlightenment rationality started off as like a way to banish the mystic tyranny of feudalism and allow people to organize their lives with reason and logic instead of appeals to superstition. But over time, it became an edifice of justifying the rule of entrenched elites and the managerial class who have absorbed those sort of types of reasoning. It puts this patina of logic on just a huge mass death machine. I mean, and Megan McArdle is just like the single person embodiment of that thesis, because all they want is these fucking trade-offs, and everything needs to be reasoned out and rational. But at every point, it is just a way to stop people from thinking about how the present order of things is insane and bloodthirsty and cruel in a way that it doesn't have to be.
Matt, get your wallet ready to bite down on, because it's going to get so much worse if you haven't read this.
All the hands in the world, all the toilet paper in the world, it's not instantly going to take all the wet shit out of my ass. So, you're dreaming about a utopia where I'm not walking around just dripping acidic brown diarrhea all over your floor. Well, okay, I'd like you to show me a better way.
Sarah, how familiar were you with McArdle's oeuvre before her latest take?
Enough to not be surprised that she published this.
Okay. So she continues. This, however, is only a quibble. if Grenfell Tower could not have been saved, there are surely other buildings where fire will soon occur that would benefit from.
I'm not kidding. Get to the point.
Yeah,
I can't take this.
That made me so mad when I read this. It's like she started out thinking, I gotcha. It would have taken time for the sprinklers to have been installed, and then realized, oh wait, no, other buildings. Fuck it. I'll just power through this to my next stupid fucking artifice.
I'm Dr. Manhattan. I don't see time in a linear path. I'm really glad she could explain this to me.
Matt, bite down on that wallet. She says, it may sound heartless to discuss life-saving measures as a calculation, but the fact is we all make these sorts of calculations every day about ourselves
of course.
and others.
We make them in a way that enriches some and kills others, and we're okay with it. You're okay with it. We get that.
Consider the speed at which you drove to work this morning.
I'm not kidding.
No, go on. I want to hear this.
I gotta see where she gets.
I'm not going to be listening for the while.
No, Matt, just listen.
Come on. You're afraid you might learn
I can't
something?
hear this. It is like needles under my fucking skin.
Have you been triggered?
This is the thing about how you can't. Everyone can't drive 25 because it would make no one would die in car crashes, but no one would get to work on time. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we know. Good. We can move on.
Okay.
Some may disagree with me using the muzzle flash from my handgun to toast my kids' breakfast every morning, but you know how long it would take me otherwise?
Wait, hang on a second. She said we make these trade-offs every day. I don't see how driving a car is a trade-off.
Okay, she says, when the cost is as personal, as glaring and obvious as restricting every car to a snail's pace, we can see that not all safety trade-offs are worth it. However, when the cost seems to be borne by someone else, we suddenly become safety absolutists. No price is too great.
I'm a safety jihadist.
Allahu Osha!
Unfortunately, other people's money has a way of ultimately coming out of our own pockets.
Yes.
If it costs more to build buildings, then rents. Okay, wait a second. This paragraph here, from sentence to sentence, line to line, is, I forget who pointed this out, is like the galactic brain meme happening in real time, okay? We're going from regular brain to cosmic consciousness right now.
Hit me.
Okay. If it costs more to build buildings, then rents will rise. People will be forced to live in smaller spaces, perhaps farther away. Some of them, in fact, may be forced to commute by automobile and then die in a car accident.
Oh my God.
We don't see those costs in the same way we see a fire's victims. We will never know the name of the guy who was killed in a car accident because he had to live far from work, because rents rose, because regulators required sprinkler systems.
This is a talking head song.
Look,
Where the hell was this fucking absolute paralysis in the face of the butterfly effect when she was saying, you know what, go invade Iraq. That'll be
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
look, we can argue all day about whether it was my fault or probably your son's fault that he flattened himself under my Wienermobile replica, but you know, who's to say he wouldn't have been killed by a condor at a later date?
Who's to say that he wouldn't have been playing underneath the wheel in someone else's driveway?
Exactly, yeah.
You know?
So I kind of did you a favor getting this out of the way quick. Go and make another one.
All right. I don't want Matt to have a stroke, so I'll just go to the last paragraph here. It's possible that by allowing large residential buildings to operate without sprinkler systems, the British government has prevented untold thousands of people from being driven into homelessness by higher housing costs.
This is public housing!
If you think about like all the people who are like homeless per se, and you think about all of the widely available housing stock that there is in a city like London or New York, let's say we just, housed homeless people in the available housing. Who's to say they wouldn't? I mean, like, they're not used to having a house, so they could slip and fall in the shower,
Sure.
leave a stove on.
And let's not forget the horrible consequence of that, which is that the investment portfolio of a bunch of psychotic Saudi princes and Russian oil oligarchs would be slightly reduced. What was that you said? You said earlier today, Virgil, about how Megan would be an effective, a controlled opposition in a communist government.
Yeah. Jez takes over. It's like she is like the figurehead of the Tory party because no sensible person, no normal person who's not politically oriented at all and not very aware would read this and be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. No, everyone with any fucking capacity to think reads this like, oh, this lady's a monster.
Well, I think that she styles herself, as we saw with her book, and even the packaging of the book is like a Gladwell sort of like, you know,
Yeah.
oh, I'm giving you the twisted history of economics or of moral blah blah blah, political economy and stuff like that. So she may be going for that, or maybe a happy coincidence.
she's she's the Washington Generals of libertarianism.
Yes.
And
That is true.
I encourage everyone to keep saying Megan McArdle's the leader of the right, and if you vote Republican, you believe this lady. Just make her be the total figurehead. Airdrop her articles into the Rust Belt.
She should testify for the HCA. Like,
Yeah. Oh my God, I would love that.
Yeah.
Megan McArdle is a thought leader. She's the head of the Republican
She
Party.
invented conservatism.
Well, here's the thing, like healthcare, right? There's a lot of people who don't have it. A lot of people who will die without it if it gets taken away from them. Whom among those people who might otherwise die are actually murderers?
No.
Okay,
right.
like think about the lives that we're saving
By killing them
by
off.
having.
What if future baby Hitler was in Grenfell Tower?
Oh my! This is Black
Whoa.
Mirror. Megan McArdle is doing Black Mirror. What if you saved somebody's life, but they made an app that killed you?
No, but like this gets to the heart of how idiotic this argument is, because you can make it about anything, anytime, for any reason. It's literally just saying, but what if?
And as you pointed out, counterfactuals were not that interesting to her back in the Iraq War days.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
All of her bullshit about trade-offs and like other people's money and who's going to pay for it, all that shit goes out the window when we decided to like fucking invade and occupy a country that had nothing to do with 9/11 because she felt like it.
Yeah.
And remember how angry she got at people who were against the war?
One of the biggest.
Yeah, she fantasized about them getting beat up.
Yeah, one of the biggest anti-war movement hippie punching bullshit artists. But I mean, look, she's learned her lesson, and as you can see, has developed a new compassion for human beings, and is humbled by the $500,000 whatever the fuck Bloomberg pays her to just shit this out daily for a gaggle of sexually confused bow tie guys.
What's fucked up is that,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Behind the music, folks.
Think about like what her annual salary at Bloomberg is versus what it would have cost to install a sprinkler system in that building. That's another trade-off.
It's a good unit.
Yeah.
I'm just going to finish this final paragraph. We got off but it says, it's possible that by allowing large residential buildings to operate without sprinkler systems, the British government has prevented untold thousands of people from being driven into homelessness by higher housing costs. It's also possible that a sprinkler system would not have saved lives in Grenfell and that Grenfell in front. Okay. Yeah. As the fire apparently spread outside the building as well within it. It spread outside the building because it was cladded in flammable shit.
Yeah.
Hold these possibilities in mind before condemning those who choose to spend government resources on other priorities. Regulatory decisions are never without costs, and sometimes their benefits are invisible.
Cost, and the rest of all these sentences is costs to my fellow rich pieces of shit.
Yep.
That's the cost that she's worried about. That's it. That's the cost she's concerned about.
This is as disgusting as like any eliminationist, like ethno-nationalist article you would read. It's just as disgusting and heartless, but because it's behind like a respectable, in the media, respectable ideological position, it's okay. But it's saying the same thing. Like it's a zero-sum game, and sometimes people have to die for it at the altar of this ideology.
Yeah.
That's like, no, that is one of the most sociopathic things I've seen in years.
It's like I see it almost as a form of eugenics. I wrote this piece a while back about the eugenics in the Republican Party, and libertarians lost their shit, and they're like, how dare you? You know, the real eugenics is abortion. But I think you can really say this, like her piece is part of that. Like she's literally arguing that these poor people who live in housing for poor people, well, you know, that money could have been spent elsewhere. makes you think, and that's it.
Well, keep in mind, Megan's book was that we read on the show, The Upside of Down, Why Failing Well is the Key to Success. I think
She would
it's
know.
time for a revised edition called Why Burning Well is the key to invisible cost-benefit analysis.
Creative destruction, you know?
Yeah.
You can't have the good stuff without burning people to death.
Was her book a memoir?
Yeah, actually,
Kind
a lot
of,
it
yeah.
was.
We read it on the show. It was probably the most painful reading series besides this that we've ever
It
done.
was the most mad everyone ever got at Will because he assigned us all parts to read from it. And
Yes.
It was,
wow, was that a fucking slog?
Who got the sex part? Someone got that part.
I don't remember a sex part.
I got the breakup.
The relationship part.
No,
What's
I
your-
got the relationship one.
Oh, okay. I mean, the sex is implied.
no,
you have to
not
use-
with libertarians.
Well, you have to
no.
use your imagination.
That's McMegan again. I think my line about her after I read this piece was, she's gone beyond both banality and evil.
Yes.
She's like a new realm. It's like she's so beyond boring.
You need the pineal gland to,
exactly.
to
Like,
understand it.
No, Megan McArdle is the ultimate like cosmic brain.
Yes.
Where like you start, the regular brain is like, my God, this unspeakable loss of life for literally no reason other than saving money for a couple assholes and rich people.
Yeah.
And then Megan McArdle is at the bottom with like universal enlightenment.
Yes.
Where she sees through time, space, and is now God.
And morals.
yeah. That's it for this week. Sarah Jones, thanks so much again
Thanks,
for joining
Sarah.
us.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Cheers. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.